And welcome back to StarCast, and welcome back to the Edward Jones Pavilion and the Edward Jones stage here. StarCast, of course, brought to you by Westwood One, which provides the best wrestling podcast in the world, of course, kicking it with...
Keep it at 100.
Keeping it 100.
What are you doing, man? Come on.
I'm hanging out here with you,
How about
Conrad.
Talk is Jericho?
How about Talk is Jericho? And how about Ringside with Jim Ross, of course, and at BlueChew.com, where you can get your first month free by just putting in the promo code StarCast. I know you're a huge fan of Blue Chew.
Well, I'm a huge fan of StarCast, and Eric Bischoff, man, he loves him some Blue Chew.
He certainly does. He certainly does. I'm standing by here with Conrad Thompson. Of course, his vision brought this all about, ladies and gentlemen. And Conrad, day 4, we've made it all the way through. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I know you've had a lot of hats you've had to wear for this, and there's been a lot of things going on. How's it gone? Give me a little feedback here.
I got to tell you, man, I had a great time, but I'm so happy it's almost over. This has been the most stressful thing ever, but this is the highlight of the weekend, man. We've got a great show here with JR. We're so proud he's here. And what a couple of guests he's got. Rey Mysterio, yes. Cody Rhodes.
Yes,
wow.
Big stars from All In, guys, which, of course, you can get on replay right there on the Fight app. That was such an incredible event. Of course, StarCast all around this All In event. Give me just a quick. You were there, up there in the skybox watching. What'd you think, man?
Man, what an incredible night for wrestling. Wrestling changed forever last night. I think all of Chicago was all in. It's a different world in professional wrestling now in 2018.
It certainly is. We have a few more things coming on today, guys, but let's get right to it. He has a couple of awesome guests. Let's send it up to the one and only JR, Matt Stryker. Give us that intro, brother.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? First and foremost, something that was just said is incredibly important. Wrestling did change forever last night and has a lot to do with each and every one of you. So give yourself a round of applause. You're a part of history. And keep the applause going. We want to give a special thanks to Conrad Thompson, who organized an amazing 4 days for all of us. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. I don't think any of us would be here if we didn't remember the sounds and the sights that this man's voice has accompanied. He is a Hall of Famer in 3 different Halls of Fame. Not just 1, but 3. Folks, do me a favor, please. Stand up and join me in welcoming the one and only good old JR, Jim Ross! Bum ba dum bum ba bum ba dum. That's just the music for you.
Can I use this? Is this on?
That's on, sir. The house is yours.
Good day, everybody. Glad you're here. All right, let's get some preliminaries out of the way. I got to see 3 matches last night because I went to the OU football game yesterday in Norman. Then I flew up to here. Who's booing the Sooners? You got to get your ass out of here any second. I know people here. And this is Chicago, you know. So I saw the last 3 matches. It's frustrating when you travel. Traveling is frustrating anyway, as many of you know. A nonstop flight from Oklahoma City to Chicago should have been about 1 hour and 40. But then when we got here early, which I thought, well, this is great, I'll get to see more of the show, the lightning started. And they wouldn't let the ramp crew out there. So I'm sitting there following the event on Twitter. And I was going crazy. It'd be like watching an OU game on Twitter. What happened next? They fumbled. The ball's fumbled. Who got it? So I was interested to see, and I was hoping to see Cody and Aldis for the NWA title, but I missed that. I heard it was really, really good. And like I said, I saw the last 3. Just terrific. This show had a little bit for everybody on it. And I think that's what made this event partly so great, is because you almost got a buffet of things. That last match that our next guest was a star in was a very luchador-ish match. So if you're not a fan of that, you got a great illustration of what it's like, why you might want to be a fan. So it's like a buffet to me. And I, as you can tell by looking, OJR likes a good buffet every now and then. So it was just a fun thing, and I hope that the business can continue. The one thing I will say about this weekend, my observation would be that it's encouraging to me at my stage of life that our business is healthy. And what you guys did with your contributions, it is. The business is healthy. And for us old dudes that started out, I was telling somebody the other day, I made more money in 3 days at the London Comic Con than I made my first year working for Leroy McGurk and Bill Watts. 3 days. So I got a tag late in the game here. The business has gotten good, and so somebody said, when are you going to retire? I said, and do what? You can only go to so many football games. They're not going to play every day. So I asked Lawler the other day on our show. Lawler and I are doing a show on the road, and we did one at Rosemont, Zany's last week. And before we went out there, we were just shooting the breeze, catching up, talking about his son, Brian, first one thing and another. And I said, God almighty, how much longer are you going to do this? He said, it's a very good answer, until they stop booking me. How's that? So my deal is, somebody said, my kids asked this Friday night when they came over for my ball game, our ball game. Dad, when are you going to start going on the road? When I stop getting booked. As long as somebody wants to see me and talk to me. The great thing about the meet and greets, that I do my meet and greet a little different, because I was late today, just got here, because I don't brush it through, because I enjoy the stories. I enjoy what I hear you say. What's your memories? I don't have an issue being the voice of your childhood. I look at that as an honor. I go tongue-in-cheek it sometimes, well, I hope that's not a curse for you. You can't get that song out of your head. So it's great to be here. We're going to have some fun today. Unique venue. I'm kind of digging this deal. And after we're done, I'll go back to my table, and we'll have some sauce and some books and things. Drop by and say hello if you want to. But I'd like to introduce my first guest, if I may, a young man that I say is young. You saw him wrestle last night, you'd say the same thing. He wrestles just like he was 20-something again. He's an amazing athlete. And he really was a guy that was a forerunner to so many guys that are not 6'3" and 250 becoming stars. Not just being on the card and doing a great match before the main event, or somewhere in the middle of the card to give the crowd a little life with a bunch of acrobatics and high spots. He got over, and sooner than later he's working a main event at WrestleMania. I just have so much respect for him. We'll talk about those stories and how we got together, and he came to WWE, which I was very proud. I was very lucky. I was so good. I was in a good spot, right place, right time to get a lot of guys spots and give them a chance. And that's, quite frankly, in our life, all you should ever want from anybody is a chance. You're not gifted a damn thing. And don't be a stereotypical millennial. Because us old guys don't owe you shit. So you can tell I get a little carried away sometimes. I'm not even drinking. It might be a problem. Does anybody have an extra Moscow Mule on him anywhere? Let's bring up this man's a Hall of Famer in so many places he will be. He's still got a great future. He's a big-time player. Big-time player. He's a brand maker. And he's my friend, Rey Mysterio. Hey. All right.
How you guys doing? What's up? What's up?
What have you been doing lately?
Man, I've been trying to eat healthy and staying in the gym and working out and spending time with my family. You know, the good stuff.
The good
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
There's a few questions that everybody's going to want to know, and you don't have to answer them. That's the beautiful part.
Right.
I can look like a turd and ask them, and you ain't got to answer them. This so much speculation about the WWE side and going back and maybe finishing up there. Right. That's what I read. Right. You and I have not had one talk about this.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
So, what is the lowdown on that you can discuss?
Of course, we started off with anonymous call in January, coming back for the Rumble, which was a big surprise to a lot of the fans because every time I do signings, they like, man, Ray, I did not expect to see you there. So I guess that worked out very well. And that just started the whole conversation about possibly making a return. We're still in the mix of that. We've been going back and forth, talking about possibly returning this month and this month. So the longer it extends, the more I keep getting work outside. That's my bread and butter. That's what I do for a living. So I'm just waiting for them to say now. When they say now, if the time is right, then let's go.
Yeah, well, it's your legacy. So much of your legacy, not all of it, because there's parts of you everywhere.
Right.
When you start wrestling for money at 14 years old, or where the hell you were.
Yeah, 14.
Right?
Yeah, I still have my first paycheck. It was 150 pesos, and it says 1989. Wow.
How were you?
A lot of you guys weren't even born.
Well, I could top that. Not the pesos. I still get that figured out, but the 89, that was a good year, by the way. But so much of your persona, from the marketing side, the merchandising side, and the fact that you outgrew, and I'm using this term, you guys are getting it, I'm sure, you outgrew your role that you were brought in to do. You were brought in to be an attraction and to build a brand for the Latinos to idolize. We needed Santo. We needed another mill. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we all believed that was, Vince and I believed that was going to be your shot.
Right.
But then this great thing that you overachieved and became a hero and a drawing card to every demographic. Little kids, big kids, ethnic groups of all colors. So you got to feel proud of the fact that you crossed over and you're not just a Latin star, you're a star.
Thank you, George. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I think we, as much as WWE, as myself, or even WCW, because that's where I really got my first big opportunity, we didn't know what was going to be ahead. We didn't know what the reaction from the fans was going to be. Was I going to capture little kids, teenagers, adults, older people? You know, so along the way, as I was just given the opportunity to wrestle, to perform on a big platform, I just did what I love to do. Never was concerned about the money, never was concerned about who I was wrestling. I just wanted opportunities, and I think that's what most of us want. I just heard you a while ago that everybody should get a shot.
Yep.
You know, and I got that shot, and I took advantage of it, and I ran with it. And look at all this that came out.
You sure did. You ran with it well. I every time I see Ray and we get a chance to talk to each other, it's not that many times a year because schedules and he's geography. He lives in San Diego and I live in Oklahoma, and you can't get there from here. But we talk about oftentimes and laugh about the fact that when I was in charge of the talent roster at WWE at the time, and Ray he was under contract to the soon-to-be defunct WCW. But Time Warner owed him a bunch of money. And he got paid every week. And he got several months left on that deal. We had a big show. Was it at the Staples Center?
Staples Center, I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I remember the room. I remember Ray coming back in our little makeshift office I had for talent relations at all these venues. Because you know when you're head of talent relations, you have to have an office because big, tough wrestlers don't want anybody seeing them cry. Because they've always got a dilemma. A dilemma is a dilemmaless business. And then when the women came in to the locker room, and they weren't just Moolah's girls, no disrespect to Moolah, for God's sakes. I know Moolah longer than anybody in this room, I promise you. But, you know, the complexity kept changing, and insecurities kept coming about. So they'd bring Ray back, and I don't remember who it was, and we sat down and started talking. And our decision collectively was, you know what you ought to do? You ought to stay home, heal, spend time with your lovely wife and your growing son, who's now 6'2" or something, and his daughter, and then where the month was, I said, we'll hire you that then. And we did.
It was
something like
January,
that.
then I believe March or April, that's when we came by to the sign. Now, I never told you this, JR, but I thought that was your way of blowing me off and pushing me away. Because you told me to collect the money from WCW, and at the time I was collecting the money and I didn't have to work for it. I had already put in my work. So you just said, step back, wait. When the time was right, we'll sit down and talk. And that exactly happened, exactly what you said. So, again, you can complete the story because after that, we just came up with my first signing with WWE.
Yeah, it was a blessing for the WWE and us to get you on the team. We talked just a second or two about your health. Anytime someone works your style, it's going to be especially grueling. It's obvious why, because you're voluntarily leaving your feet on multiple occasions, on multiple nights during the year. And the odds of that you coming through unscathed, unbruised, unsore is minute. So, and your style has always been creative and athletic, and you throw yourself around, and now you're not the 20-something-year-old kid no more. So what are you doing differently in your training to extend your shelf life?
I think the most important part of my life change is my diet. I changed my diet. I changed what I eat. I take care of what I eat. My supplementation is also a huge factor in how my body feels. I'm taking the right things to feel strong, solid, joint-wise, tendon-wise. I'm doing a lot of cryo chamber. I'm doing PRP. So I've been staying on point with like the latest developments in just an athlete's body, how to take care of it. And that's been helping me out tremendously.
When I met you and you were in WCW, you were not this lean. You were thicker.
No. Yes, much thicker.
Yeah, and you're better now, I think.
I also have a thyroid condition, which my body tends to lose weight very fast. So that, in a way, has helped me out to just stay leaner.
How do I get that thyroid condition?
A
Anybody
matter
else
of a
want that
touch.
info?
Just a touch. That's it.
All right. Next time you see me, I'll be like 180. One cheek will be 180. Hey, well, so what on your diet? What did you cut out of your diet primarily? What are the main things you stopped eating to accomplish your goal here?
Well, what I'm doing now is the prep meals. And that is actually just helped me out, not having to eat fast food, not having to eat hotel food. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that now I'm eliminating all the greases, all the butters, all of that stuff, the bread. And I'm eating more vegetables, more ground beef, more ground turkey. Trying to stay as lean as possible without having to use those extra condiments or carbohydrates.
Are you are you watching the carbs and are you eating more meals a day as well?
There's occasions where I eat 5 meals a day. There's occasions where I eat 3 meals and 2 shakes from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. Now, the other thing that's been helping me out a lot is doing my cardio fasting. So I wake up, the first thing I do is go do my cardio 30 minutes. I come home, drink my shake. 2 hours later, I have my first meal. And it's every 3 hours after that, every 3 hours.
There's structure in your diet, and I think that's what kills a lot of us is, I've been on a lot of diets for like 2 days. And I got bored. I need a apple fritter. And they're not that big today. I'll just get a couple of these babies. And I'll have a shake too, a chocolate shake. So
Whipped cream?
yeah. So, I was looking back. Raphael Morphy gave me some information on you, and I knew most of it. But looking at it in the one page of all the things you've done this year and where you've been, the shows you've worked on, I don't know if anybody in the business ever has hit all these major events, these different promotions in 1 year, one calendar year, like you have. Was that by design, or did it work out that way, or what do you think happened to create that?
I think God put me in this position to be where I'm at now. I've been very blessed throughout my career, JR, and to be able to start off a year with the Rumble, unexpected, and then moving on to the greatest Royal Rumble, and then still for the first time doing my show in New Japan, which that was checked off from my bucket list. I've never been there before, and I was very excited and pleased to have been there for the very first time. And, you know, the year's not over yet, so
All right.
all in last night.
That's it, man. I mean,
History.
all of them. You've done them all.
I've just felt like I've been in the right place at the right time.
You know, somebody was talking about your, you talk about, in my world, back in the day, when you talk to people about your job, you oftentimes talk about business stuff that's kind of mundane, but it's necessary to talk about. So we were talking, I said, man, Ray must have a hell of an agent. Because there's a lot of paperwork goes on this deal. Travel, and licensing, and medicals, and all this stuff. And they said, well, you know who his agent is, don't you? I said, no. And they said, does a lot of his consulting things. It's Conan. And I said, it makes all the sense in the world. I'll tell you, Carlos is one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to about the wrestling business. If I had a wrestling company and I owned it, so don't hold your breath on that one, by the way. I ain't Conrad. I'm not that organized. And I sure as hell probably don't have his patience. But I just, every time I talk to him, I've gotten a different perspective of the business that I hadn't really, looked at, not looked at, or taken for granted. So he's got to be a big help to you. He knows what you're worth.
From day one.
Oh, yeah, day one.
From day one. From day one. I don't forget that, and I never will. We were actually conversing about something very similar last night, how people just tend to forget who helped them get to the top or get to where they're at. You know, and Conan was a big factor for me. He was the one that opened up the doors, not just in ECW or in WCW, but from day one. He's the first one that saw me and brought me over to Mexico City at the age of 17 years old, you know, and helped me push through the 4 years that I spent in Mexico, helping me get better. I didn't know how to punch. I didn't know how to kick. He told me several times, if you don't know how to punch, they're going to send you back home. You know, you look small already, so you have to make it look effective, aggressive. So he was always in my ear, always in my head. And what can I do now? I can help him make a little something with what I do, you know. So he's a friend for life. He's my brother for life.
That's an honorable man, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for Rey Mysterio. At Rey Mysterio on Twitter. You guys don't know all that. Are you? Where's your next stop, might I ask?
My next stop, Comic-Con, coming up in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I'm doing a lot of those recently.
They're fun, aren't they?
Oh, they are
I
fun.
like doing them.
They're a lot of fun.
I did a meet and greet earlier today. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was slow, but the great thing about getting older, you can blame every damn thing on your age. You bump into a woman in the elevator, hit her boob. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. You have a conversation with yourself. Hey, this old man's crazy. Let's get out of this damn elevator. Well, I enjoy the Comic-Cons too. I enjoy this guy. His work has always been wonderful. His work last night was great. And don't kid yourself, there's a lot of younger dudes in that match last night that was a thrill of their lifetime to work with him in the last match of the biggest show. That's Rey Mysterio. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, the show will roll on here, believe it or not. I see Conrad limping and scurrying around back there. I think Cody Rhodes is, I don't know if I can call it, what name does he use? God almighty, is somebody going to sue me? Cody Rhodes, Cody Reynolds. Where's Matt Striker? I was going to see while we wait on Cody to arrive, which I was going to see if we do some Q&As.
Well, you know, so I got a question for you.
All right.
All right. So you have seen arguably some of the greatest NWA World Heavyweight Championship titles change hands. Where does last night rank in your memory?
Well, because Cody's dad, and knowing he was watching, I could feel that. You guys knew him, you'd feel it too. There ain't no country song here. I ain't Toby Keith. I felt it. The whole build, I felt it for weeks. So I understand how Dusty would have perceived this whole event, how proud he would have been of everybody involved. It was really significant. It's funny that I'm going to tell you that probably the two most memorable NWA title defenses and changes for me both happened in Chicagoland, ironically. 89, Flair and Steamboat, UIC Pavilion. Pretty good match, by the way. Pretty good match. They only had 3 of them that year that were, I don't know how many stars they got, but probably 80 and a half. I like those stars that Dave does. He says, I'll give that match 4 1/4 star. What they do to screw up that 1/4? I mean, did they miss a flip? But the Flair and Steamboat was magical, Matt. And last night, because of the crowd, and so many of you were there, that was something you wanted to see. You were all emotionally invested in the match. And they used the NWA title as it should be used, as a standard bearer, but they made the angle personal. Personal doesn't always have to be, I'm mad at you and you're mad at me, so I'm gonna dog cuss you, That's one way of doing it, and it happens and it works. But being personal is like Cody had a mantra, he had a mission. His dad's legacy, the fact to be this NWA champion, was a personal deal. That became a personal issue. And I will say this very day, guys, I might be wrong, I think there are too many titles in wrestling. I think they've been watered down a great deal. And he agrees, smart young man. And that personal issues are what draws the money. When we care about somebody strongly enough that we feel they're in jeopardy, that they're going to get hurt, they're going to get disappointed, then it means something. It means a whole lot more. So,
all right, you want to take some questions from the crowd as we wait for
absolutely.
our next guest?
Hell
Throw your
yeah.
hand up, and I'll come and find you. All right, that's not necessarily throwing it up. It's kind of just doing that. You're going to have to do better than that. High up there. All right, what's your name, where are you from, and what's your question?
Ryan from New Orleans. What do you think Vince's reaction is going to be when he finds out about Jericho popping up last night?
I don't expect him to have any reaction. I mean, he's a good no-seller. And quite frankly, he's got a lot of fish to fry these days, with everything they're doing. He's competitive, maybe a lot of fire, I don't know. But I don't think it's going to be anything near the magnanimous reaction that some people believe it could be. The veins popping out, red face, Yosemite Sam. I don't think that's going to happen.
All right.
Look, he's got. Did you see what that stock was trading for last week?
Yeah, it's up to almost
I don't think he really gives a shit about all that.
Do you still have your stock options at 9? Yeah,
Well,
you
maybe.
do. All right. What's your name, where are you from, and what's your question?
Hey, I'm Tyler from Northern California. First, I want to say last night was amazing. I think we all had an amazing time there. It was so much fun. And at the end, Cody and everybody was letting us know that we were part of the reason why this happened, the people in the auditorium were the people that it happened. Something in the back of my mind, though, makes me feel like the show was cut short in favor of the people watching at home and not the people that were there. And I don't know if anybody else felt that way or if you have any feeling about that.
So you thought 4 hours is not long enough? Well, they committed to a television event. That's how and even though you guys paid your tariff to get in the door and get a ticket, they ain't going to make no profit on the gate. Not with that overhead. They got to sell pay-per-views. And I heard they did an amazing job. I think the fight at people are ecstatic. They can't believe how much over the event delivered. So it looks like there's going to be something on that side, which is what they had to have. They took on a whole new event, and they made a whole new event, and now they've got the the pattern laid to do this once a year. And so somebody said, well, they should do it more than that. Maybe they should. I'm not the marketing genius that some of you may be, but I see this being very special if it's once a year. I can see them refining it, enlarging it, tweaking it, all the things, facility-wise. There's a whole learning experience. But it was a great experiment. So I loved it. I think it's a once-a-year deal. But I can understand that. I can feel that. The last match was cut from 28 minutes to 12. And that's because some guys before them were trying to get their own shit in, and they went over. And it's not funny, really, because all they did was rob the main events and the other matches later on of time. And those matches are in those spots for a reason. I just found that to be selfish and not professional. So better they work for these guys than work for me, because I get crotchety. What are you thinking?
All right, next question comes from over here. Please stand up. Face that camera right there. And, of course, very quickly, we all want to say thank you to Fight TV for bringing the world this amazing, amazing event. What's your name, where are you from, and what's your question, please?
Hey, I'm Randy. I'm from Indianapolis. JR, thanks for coming out to join us today. Throughout your career, you have had dozens, maybe hundreds of different broadcast partners, some that we are really, really familiar with, like Jerry Lawler or Tony Schiavone. Who is someone that you have worked with in your career that you really enjoyed, whose work we might not be familiar with or that we might not expect, that you really had a great time calling matches with?
He didn't ask me about the well-dressed part. It's nice of you to dress up today, Matt, too. I always appreciate your professionalism.
I'm a man of the people.
His voice is starting to sound like Dick the Bruiser, who for many years I thought Dick the Bruiser was a porn star. Until I met him, and he was just Dick. Bob Caudle would have to be on that list. And if you lived in the Carolinas, you would have known that Bob Caudle was the voice of Mid-Atlantic Wrestling for many years and was an amazing broadcaster. He was a legitimate broadcaster. He just wasn't a wrestling guy. He did weather, he did news, he worked for WRAL Television, Channel 5 in Raleigh. So he's a major player in that market, and he loved wrestling, and he got good at it. So when I started working there for Crockett, the first assignment Dusty gave us was with Tony and I together, and everybody was worried about, well, two play-by-play guys can't coexist, which is the biggest fallacy in the world. That's like saying Ronda Rousey doesn't deserve a push because she hasn't paid her dues. Where in the hell is the list of dues? Has anybody got the list of dues? Can you just text them to me, tweet them to me, Facebook me? I don't give a shit. Any of that's fine. There's no rules like that. So I said, well, I can do. Tony leads us in, and Tony gets us a break, and in between we just volleyed back and forth. It worked. It worked. So you can work with anybody if you just listen. That's the key thing about commentary. But Bob was really good, very underrated. So when I attained a little bit of influence there, I made Bob my partner. And that's like when I made Paul Heyman my partner in WCW, long before we worked together in WWE, the year that Jerry took his sabbatical. And the booking committee says, what are you thinking? He's going to kill your career. But I made them happy because it took him off their hands, him being Paul, because he was a wonderful pain in the ass. He had better ideas than the booking committee, and they didn't want to admit that. Because unless you haven't heard this deal, guys, there are those in the wrestling business who are somewhat egocentric.
All right, please stand up. Face this way. What's your name, where are you from, and what is your question? I can hold the microphone.
I'm Glenn from St. Louis, Missouri. So my question is, aside from people trying to get themselves over, what would you say was the biggest criticism of yours from last night?
Criticism? Well, the show was arguably overbooked based on the time, the budgeting of the time. But, that's a minor deal. You got, this whole thing has been amazingly successful. I couldn't think of anything too severe that I would say, other than maybe a little bit long. See, here's the deal. I'm not a big fan of 3-hour Raws. I'm not a big fan of 4-hour pay-per-views, much less, 5 or whatever. All I know is that at the greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, Lawler and I flew in the air 37 hours, and we worked an hour of a few sound bites on the pregame show. Did you see that? No. Do you hear that? No, I'm kidding. I don't do those anymore. But it's just a matter of knowing the audience and knowing what you're doing, and you guys loved it. And I'm sure some of you would sat there another 2 hours if they'd give you something, right? So that's the only thing, maybe, because I don't like to see the main event that's there because it was earned and should have been there to have its time cut. You just don't want, as a producer and as a booker or someone in that role, as I've been in my lifetime, and I don't see this a lot in wrestling, you have to keep the main event more clean. In other words, the guys in the main event should be given the first opportunity to use a table, let's say. That's simple. Now you say, well, what about a table match? Okay, all right, Einstein, yeah, that counts. But seriously, the main event's got to be protected. And so last night, that was adversely affected by other guys before them going too long. And that's unfortunate.
All right, stand up. You're ringside with Jim Ross. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your question, please?
Dave from Pittsburgh. I was wondering, with the MSG show in April, the ROH New Japan one selling out and going up against NXT TakeOver the same day, do you think that Vince will sign Cody, Omega, the Bucks, a lot of these people to keep them out of that show? And if so, do you think they'll go to NXT or the main roster?
Interesting question. Well, here's the thing. He's not going to lose a bidding war with anybody in the story on that one. So therefore, if you're comfortable with the creative process and how you're going to be presented, then certainly the money is the bottom line. In most cases, when somebody says it's not about the money, it's all about the money. These women and men have a short shelf life. They're doing a real amazing job. The travel is killer. The bumps are killer. There's no off season. And I don't know, quite frankly, how much an off season would do some of these guys. I've been around guys that their wives are telling me he's better off when he's not home. He wants to be on the road. So when he's home, he's actually mentally on the road. So I can fix that. I can get him with all the frequent flyer miles he needs. So I don't know. I'm trying to think that I had another illustration. I'll come back to him here in a minute.
All right, you ready for the next question? Okay, you're ringside with Jim Ross. What's your name? Where are you from? What's your question?
Thank you, Jim, for coming to Chicago. My name is Jake, and I'm from born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I really loved your autobiography.
Thank you.
That was released last year. So my couple questions here. What do you believe was the hardest part in the hardest aspect in writing your autobiography, and do you have any updates on part 2?
Yeah, well, thank you for liking it. That book has been on the number 1 in Amazon's in the category for 18 months. It's amazing, yeah. And the quick story on that deal, my wife Jan got killed on March 23rd, 2017. And Paul O'Brien and I were just finishing the book, and this is after losing my first writing partner, Scott Williams. And then Jan gets killed, about 30 seconds from our garage, and man, I lost a lot of steam. But she was such a driving force in writing the book, being honest. I never talked about my prescription medication issues to anybody. And it was something we talked about, because we thought, well, people can see you're human. They can see sometimes you can get knocked down to a knee. Now, God, I've been knocked down. My knees are so scraped and scar tissued up. I've been knocked down a lot. But here's the other issue. I got right back up, just like that. And we can all do that to that degree, mentally, spiritually, physically, whatever it may be, get back up, right? But the book was the hardest part of the book. Well, first of all, my dad told me when I was going to quit the 9th grade football team and just play on the varsity because I thought I was a big stud at Westville, Oklahoma High School, where I graduated with 60 kids. It's like Mayberry. That I said, I want to quit the 9th grade team just to play on the varsity because I thought I had this, NFL career looming. Another fantasy world I lived in. Roller derby, pro wrestling, and me playing pro football. All fantasy. So my dad said, well, if you're going to quit the 9th grade team, your buddies you rode the school bus with, have been staying these sleepovers, all these are your pals, then you're not going to play varsity football. Because, son, here's the deal. And I'll tell you guys this. If you don't remember anything else today, there's 2 things I want to leave you with here today, and I'm not quite done. But one is quitting is the easiest thing in the world to get good at. Really is. Quitting is the easiest thing in the world to get good at. And so I remember that. And I snapped out of my feel sorry for myself mode, and I became a man again, or an adult again, and dropped a set and finished the book. But the hardest part is the audio book was the hardest part. I just, and instead of just reading the words that we wrote, I was seeing these scenes. I saw these things. And a lot of them had to do with my wife, Jan. It was just, it's hard. And I cried a lot during the reading of this book. It didn't make air. My ego would not allow that. And I said, we all have massive egos to some degree, unfortunately. But I had to work hard to get through it. But now the audio book's been critically acclaimed. It's sold great. People like it. And the second book, we just signed a contract about a week or 10 days ago, something like that, with Paul O'Brien, who lives in Ireland. And he's extremely talented. The Blood Red Turns Daughter Green books are amazing. So we're planning. We're already off and running on this thing. We got it billboarded out chronologically from where I left WrestleMania with Rock Austin 1 forward. And then coming forward, is going to have, me teaming with Vince and Lawler, then Lawler and myself, me and Paul and I, which is very big to me. Working with Paul Heyman was really exciting, and we'll do that again someday. Mark my words, somewhere. And the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, the original incarnation of the XFL, and my role in the XFL, man. You talk about somebody working every day, but can you imagine a fat guy from Oklahoma getting to eat all the catering he wants, get paid for calling football games and wrestling? If they had roller derby like on Wednesday, I'd have been in hog heaven, man. I'd had it all. The trifecta, baby. So that book's going to have a lot of stuff. This also, unfortunately, going to have, my 2 more bouts of Bell's palsy. So if I took pictures of you guys today and I didn't smile, you know why. I like seeing you, but I can't smile. And my wife Jan's death. So this next book has got a lot of heavy-duty stuff. Me being moved from Raw, unannounced, unknown to SmackDown in 2008 in San Antonio, and I still remember it. It wasn't a great day for me. And I also didn't handle it well. It taught me another lesson. Don't get so full of your own shit that you believe the show can't go on without you, because guess what? It can, and it does. So all a growing period. I think you'll like the second book. I got to make sure we got a lot of funny stuff in there, because some of those topics are kind of, I don't want to say morbid, but they're going to be kind of serious. So we hope the target is December or Christmas time, holidays of next year, 2019. Okay. In the meantime, if you haven't bought my books, I'm not kidding. I'll gladly sell you one today at the table, the gimmick table.
There you go. All right, we have another question. You're ringside with Jim Ross. What's your name? Where are you from? And what is your question, please?
I am Robert. I'm from Bloomfield, Indiana. And I do play-by-play on the independent circuit from time to time. One thing I wanted to ask you was, last night I saw moves in the ring that were going so fast and that I had never seen before in my life. When you run into that situation when you're calling a match, how do you handle that, and how do you research maneuvers that you've never seen?
Well, Robert, some New Japan fans think I don't do a very good job of that. And they have the right to their opinion. I just don't choose to agree with them. It's hard. The one thing about wrestling at a fast pace is that you don't allow your audience time to process what they have just seen. And it's a series of, I said this to somebody that maybe today, to me a wrestling match has got to have peaks and valleys. It's got to get you up there and almost, you got to have some of this. And sometimes in the high spot matches that are really bump, 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 it's the music track is like, it's there, it's static, because it's all same piece, same pace, same speed. So I don't try to call all those moves because it would clutter up the broadcast. It sounds stupid if you try to call every single spot. We're doing television. If you're vision impaired, then I'd probably give you a short change in that. Don't call this all the spots that are bing, 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 bing. I'd rather hear the canvas, the turnbuckles, the ropes, the chops, the guttural reaction, and you, the fans, and what you respond to it. Because the one thing I did a podcast the other day with Don Callis, and he said the one thing he learned from me a long time ago was don't be embarrassed to lay out, and let your ambiance and the wrestler's ambiance tell the story. Then you embellish it. What we have always done as wrestling announcers should be this story of we are the providers of lyrics to the music that a wrestler makes. It starts with the music. It doesn't start with the lyrics in this scenario. That's how I've always looked at my job. And laying out is not a bad thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now the moment we've all been waiting for. Get your phones out because it's history. It's his first official appearance as the brand new NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. Please give a warm welcome, Cody Rhodes! And his special guest, Pharaoh!
I like the boots. Where'd you get that gimmick? The boots.
Oh, the boots. I think you know.
Yeah, I know. Are they made with the Austin Hall Boot Company?
Oh man, a lot of people don't know this. On the side of my tights, they think it's a phoenix design, like a phoenix. It's the Austin Hall Eagle, and you could tell that. I say all the time, "Oh, it's the Austin Hall Eagle," and it's not. Many folks who do know what it is. The Austin Hall boots, you tell them, man.
Austin Hall boots are they're boot makers that made a lot of the boys' boots, but none more famous than the Dream. So all those cowboy wrestling boots he had, and all those guys that wore it. Barry Windham wore them back in those days. Some.
Barry, Dustin.
Yeah, a lot of guys. But Dusty started that whole thing, and that was good stuff. Austin Hall Boot Company. Look them up sometime. Google them, kids.
They were just boots with flat soles, right? And a little more comfortable for wrestling in, I guess.
So how you feel today?
Oh, I was doing a podcast earlier, and the best way I could describe it is I didn't get a chance to sleep, and I went right to Gorilla after my match, and I directed and timed the last half of the show, and not the best timer, if judging by the main event time, but I'm learning. But I didn't get that moment I didn't get many moments. It was just happening so fast. But the thing I remember and how I feel right now is the same way I felt last night. I don't want this weekend to be over. You know, this This has been so much fun, right? Did you guys have fun? Yeah. Just wanted to be over, you know.
You know, the after the smoke clears, as they say, down the Alamo, people are going to be wondering, when's the next one? It's always the same deal. And of course, here's the thing about back in the, you know, I see these Tony Gurria stories. You know, back in my day, the sheep were afraid of me. No, it's a New Zealand thing.
What a set of hair on Tony Gurria, by the way.
What's that?
His hair.
Oh yeah.
What a set of hair.
It's on steroids.
Oh God.
He's got steroid hair. Anyway, back in my day, I'm just saying that when we were doing Raw every week, and the 83 weeks that we're getting our ass kicked by WCW, it was like you get the ratings by noon on Tuesday, and that's the last time you talk about Monday. Everything is looking forward. So I go to the TV and talk to the guys. We're going to turn this thing around. Because the boys in both companies are shooting the breeze with each other. And the WCW guys are laying it in to the WWE guys because we're beating your ass on the ratings. So you just got to keep chopping wood. So you had no time to enjoy it. And then when you have a great rating, it's the same story. It's the same scenario. Well, Tuesday, you got to start thinking about the next show. So you got 24 hours to celebrate. So I'm telling you, from my personal experience, you got about 24 hours, maybe 48 of a little bit of clemency. And then the pressure's going to be on. We got to start planning. I promise you that's what's going to happen to you. Because you can't help it. It's in your blood.
Well, maybe we already started planning.
What did you, looking back, thinking about this event, what did you learn the most about, put it in the context of promoting an event of this nature? What did you learn the most about? Time management, budgeting, what?
It's probably time management. To come at it from the standpoint of competitor, performer, and then producing it, I had to I kept writing these lists. My dad was a big list guy, and I've become a big list guy too. I kept writing these lists of these are the things you need to do to make sure you're in peak condition, and then to make sure you're also in peak mental state, and to make sure you paid this guy and talked to this guy. I also learned I wanted to do every single thing with this show. I wanted to do payroll. I wanted to know elements of the production. I wanted to know how many chairs were in the union catering room. Just next time, I don't need to know all that stuff. I learned that you're only as good as the team around you, and we've discovered some new teammates over the course of this weekend. I'll give you a good example. Atlas Security is unreal. Whew. Those guys they were utility men. They were not just security, but they handled things that needed to be handled when we couldn't. And something as simple as how do we get Magnum through the crowd to greet his daughter at the bottom of the steps? And how do we get that moment? And they knew what to do. And so we picked up some teammates, some good teammates.
You hit the nail on the head about the crew around you. Everybody's got to have that's why in every major change of administrations, whether it be politics, which we're not going to talk about here today, and that was it, by the way. If you're looking for politics, you just got it, at least while I'm up here. But you find that people gravitate to those they can trust, but at some point in time, when you start out, it's kind of the guys you like to be around, and he's got a good head for the business. Then it's like, well, I know, but I also not going to trust him. But at the end of the day, when you fold the laundry, did the person produce? Did they deliver? Did they do their job? And I know from working with Dusty's dad so many years, he used to give me copies of his book to write TV off of. The format, the official format. He's already done, the creator's done. And people said, I didn't know Dusty could write in kayfabe. I said, what? Well, I was looking at your on your desk. You got a Dusty's. That's Dusty's writing, right? I said, first of all, what are you doing looking at my desk? And secondly, yes, that was Dusty's writing. He said, I didn't know he could write in kayfabe because sometimes he'd write in cursive, and sometimes he'd write with in whatever. And then the whole little deals and that. His personality is all over his writing and his pencil. Think about how that worked out. I loved it. So he was, but I see that whole thing here with you guys. You're going to have to. I can't wait till what's going to come next, and I'd like to be a part of what comes next at some point in time.
Absolutely. It's funny thinking about his writing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen anything. I have some of his booking journals. We were talking about, me and Conrad were talking about what's in these booking journals. And for a guy who got thrown out of like 4 colleges, he has this like unbelievably eloquent handwriting. And I don't know where, I didn't get it. None of the others got it. But yeah, it's really crazy when you think about how just he was a vision guy.
I have an answer to that question.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've asked him that question. And once you get him rolling, he would say, I always want to be a star, baby. So I practiced signing my autograph. As a young guy, he would sign his name because he knew somewhere down the road, something told him he was going to be the American dream of some shape, form, or fashion, name, whatever. That was the whole deal. And I'll tell you, not nearly at his level. I had the same deal. I wanted to get off that damn farm so bad in Oklahoma, and I loved the wrestling. And wrestling was gifted to me by my dad. If I did all my homework and did my chores on the farm, I got to watch an hour of wrestling. That's all was on. So I knew I wanted to leave. I didn't want to be Jed Clempett's, illegitimate cousin. So I practiced signing my name. I did it for years. When I was a kid, not having a clue where it was going to go. But Dusty's deal was definitely, he knew he was going to be a star, and a star has to have a great signature, if you will.
Kenny, I don't know if you guys heard Kenny Omega say, if you will, last night in the ring. He really committed to it, because we didn't have anything at the end of the night. One of my favorite things was the whole reason this came about. Some of you have heard this, but the idea for, I think we can do a bigger show, a bigger building, just came from doing 1,200, 900 seat stage AE, small, intimate settings. And what was happening at the end of every night, everyone was staying and nobody was leaving. So we would do just bits and comedy and something to send them home happy. And it became a big focus, like, yeah, that's great, last segment, but how are we sending them home happy? And that was such a touching thing last night, to see 10,451 people happy and staying in the arena, and just really it just eye-opening for perhaps what we can do now.
What's the future in your view? It's in your hands, literally, the NWA title. Is there a short-term goal for the organization? And I know Billy's done a great job of bringing life to this. He brought it back, and I think that's great, because this is not easy to regenerate something that was really hot at one time, and then all of a sudden, whatever happened to that NWA title thing? It used to be that was what everybody. If you're a wrestling fan, when I was a kid, and when a lot of you were kids that are younger, that was the deal. That was because that champion traveled the world. That champion went to all the territories. It wasn't a regional territory like the WWF title. And I'm not belittling Bruno whatsoever. I love Bruno. I wish the wrestling business had more people as honorable as him in it today. But what's the future of this, Cody? What do you want to do with it?
Well, I want to continue the path of the traveling champion. That's kind of what I grew up on, the type of wrestling I liked, even though it's a generation prior to me. When I go back and look at, what Flair was able to do, what Jack Briscoe was able to do, their date book alone, and not just, I did it, but I did it and it was the best thing of the night. Like, I did it with consistency. But I have, it rubs some people the wrong way, and that's fine. I think most people enjoy it. I don't really believe in the politics of wrestling anymore. I understand if this isn't your company's title, but if you're asking me to come wrestle for your company, I'm wearing the damn title. There's no, right? It takes an organization. It does to facilitate and get that ring set up, and it takes a crew to tighten those ropes. But a big focus last night was like, this is a wrestling show by wrestlers. And yeah, there's some things we could have learned from a company standpoint, an organizational standpoint, but that's how I go into everything I do. When I go into Long Beach to wrestle Juice Robinson for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, I'll be wearing this too. I'm taking it everywhere I go, and I'm excited to do that.
I'm looking forward to that Long Beach event, by the way. I'm glad you brought it up. I think it's going to be, I'm going to work Kevin Kelly in that show because Josh Barnett's going to be in Japan, ironically. One of his fighters is fighting Bob Sapp. Remember Bob Sapp, you guys?
Whoa.
It's something at Satama Super Arena. So Josh had a conflict, but I'm looking forward to working with Kevin. Kevin will do a great job, and I've worked with him a lot of times at WWE and before. And he knows infinitely more about, for those of you that send me your hate tweets, he knows infinitely more about New Japan than I. Fully transparent here. But it doesn't, to me, that's not what's going to make the storytelling work. It's going to be what music they produce, and the lyric that I give that music that I hear. I got to hear their music. I got to feel their music. I got to experience their music. It's got to move me to give you a lyric or a sound bite. You know, everybody. I understand everything can't be for the love of God, he's dead, or whatever I said about Mick. You guys know those lines better than I do. So, but that's the deal, man. This is going to be a great card there. And Juice is a kid that's coming up. He has no excuse not to have a great match with Cody. No excuse. And when you get a guy in that position on national television that's finally getting his opportunity to be a player, what have you always wanted to be, Juice? I want to be a player. I want to be a man of that guy. I want to make more money. Great. We're all for all those things. So here's a match. You can start that. And he had a good match with in the Cow Palace, I thought. He's improved a hell of a lot.
They had a great match in the Cow Palace, and Juice is
good hand.
Juice is one of those, I guess, bet on yourself types. If you know the tale of Juice Robinson, I mean, not only did he leave the developmental system, he went an incredibly difficult path, a path he didn't have to go with the Young Lions path, and the Young Lions produce, if you look at the veteran talent on New Japan, all of them have been Young Lions. What a great model system that it seems like it's too difficult to adapt to American style, but there's definitely a lot to learn from it, and it's one of my favorite parts when you go over there. The respect level is through the roof. Actually, this is funny. One of the Young Lions, he has an identical twin. And so I see him backstage in Tokyo, and then I go, I just was in Vancouver. I got to film 5 episodes of Arrow this season. And then I see him again in the fictional prison yard doing pull-ups. And I thought, oh, I've been traveling too long. I know him. He's a young lion. He couldn't be here. I went over to him. It's such a small world. That's his twin brother. Yeah. So now I got to take care of that guy. Got to take care of him. Yeah. So that's a great system. And Juice is it's a Wrestle Kingdom rematch for him and I. And I understand there's a big difference between last night was the most I've been in arenas with 80-something thousand people, but 80-something thousand people weren't cheering for me. Last night was the most connected I've ever been to you guys. And but I know in Long Beach, because I have a pretty bad track record in Long Beach, I'm fully expecting to be booed out of the building in Long Beach, and that's our relationship. I'm okay with it, but it's going to be a really good show.
I just hope they connect the security railing. I don't have to eat that again. Hey, here's what's funny. You know, we think a lot of our friends and people we read about, and a lot of us have been reading about these the dirt sheets and down online. some of the most successful and brightest guys in that world thought that bump, that whole spot was a work. It was a work. And I'll just give you, I responded to one of them with this. Are you shitting me? So hopefully they'll hook off all the security railings, because at some point the boys have got to also understand that doing it to me was one thing, because I'm not going to sue anybody, but somebody else is going to call 1-800-LAWYER and sue your ass. It's the way of the world, folks. So the talents have got to be respectful of the promotion, and so maybe that needs to be addressed. But last night, man, the thing about this show last night, it took my breath when I got into to Conrad's suite, and all the goddamn food was gone. Everything. I found a bun. I had a bun, relish, and mustard sandwich. What the hell's that? But here's what I did see. Here's what that warmed my heart. It should be a magnificent picture that you guys should, if you get a chance, you should have it. And that is the look from up high, the complete oval, and seeing not one empty chair. Not one empty chair. Looking at ringside, how orderly these chairs were, how everything made rows. Old school wrestling set up. And the crowd was just, you guys look great there. So I'm thinking, man, the only other time I saw a picture like that moved me was my first day on the job working for Leroy McGurk and the Big Cowboy. And they had a picture in the Tulsa Civic Center. It was a big building at the time, held about 8,000, 9,000. And the match, the referee who would train me, Leo Voss, was in the ring with the Kentuckians, Grizzly Smith, Jake the Snake's dad, and Luke Brown, big Kentuckians, big full beards. You know, they looked like they were always ready for their, lumberjack rules match, the plaid coats and all that crap, against the Assassins. And I will tell you to this very day, if you get a chance, go back and look at some old tape. Look at how the Assassins gained eye contact on interviews and what they were looking at. They were looking at you and you and you. It was scary how good they were. And I don't know if they even realized how good they were. But they sold out that arena. The first time the arena had ever been sold out. And here's the Kentuckians, the old school, and the Assassins, and the referee in the middle. And they're not posing, they're doing business. And I was so struck by that picture, because you always start looking at what people are wearing. And here, everybody's going to wear pretty much a black T-shirt, but have a few tattoos. I ain't got any tattoos today, so I'm kind of behind. But I love that picture. The crowd shot is something that we all should have a piece of. That's a great memento, and because you've made history. You made history. And here's the great thing about it. If we all live long enough, guess what? We get a chance to make history again. You can't get too much good stuff in your life, folks, I'm telling you. And this is good stuff. So did anybody play bigger than you knew they'd play big, but they played bigger last night than you envisioned? Pleasantly surprised. I know this guy's going to be good, but he went above and beyond.
I thought the opening match, MJF, really stood out as somebody, like, he just really stood out as, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm ever in a position to say, like, he's got it. But it felt like one of those, like, hey, there's something.
Yeah.
There's something there. And if we're talking about planning or whatever, but literally just in your mind, if you're like, all right, what's the card if you do it again? I was thinking, well, if he's available, that's special. And that was cool to me because he's a young person, a young kid, an upstart. That's really important to have on an event like that. Same with, I got to see Austin Gunn. I got to see Billy Gunn's son in the ring. With it's just little moments like that. Marco's stunt. Did you guys, Marco? Oh, JR, you seen Marco's stunt?
No, I didn't get here until the last three matches.
That battle royal was one of the most fun battle royals. Oh man, so fun.
And they can be such a disaster.
They can, and I held a little meeting, and I didn't give many guidelines, but we had an idea of what we wanted to have these moments, and I feel like not only did they hit the moments we wanted, they hit moments we didn't know we wanted. Jordan Grace fit right in, man. Just an ass kicker in there. She did so great. But I got to watch the whole show. I did prior to mine. We were getting ready, and then I did the latter half of the show. And I was. I gotta tomorrow. I think I'm just gonna watch it with actually Matt and Nick, if they're not tired of wrestling at this point, and
that can
watch
happen.
it.
Yeah, that can happen. Well, while you're watching, you're going to be planning. There's an idea come out. We should do this better next time, or let's don't do that again, or whatever it may be.
Yes, sir.
I just said earlier before you got here that this was almost like an experiment. It was a calculated risk. Wrestling promoters have been playing the calculated risk card since I was a pup. That's a long time. And they're going to continue to play calculated risk. The only thing that's not a calculated risk now is selling out WrestleMania. That's almost, I don't know if you didn't have to name a match. You're going to sell all the tickets. So you hope that when the brand of All In comes back in your radar, that you respond in kind, even if you can't make it to that city, or where it's maybe here. I don't know, but I don't know anything about that. But wherever, if you can't make the live events and all the things going on, you can watch it on the Fight app. Well, that was a hell of a deal. Did anybody get any feedback on the Fight app, how that went? I know it did real well number-wise, so I'm very happy.
It did extremely, extremely well. They had a number in mind, and from what I understand, you guys beat that number by 10 times. I'm not at liberty to give away the number, but there are a lot of zeros involved there.
Good.
It was Mike Weber from the Fight, the whole Fight team. We had a discussion earlier in the week, and that's where he got the number. And then I was very pleased. That was actually one of the only things feedback we got at dinner last night was, hey, we know this. Yeah, this worked that way, and yeah, man.
The longer you get in this, you'll go to that number first.
Right.
What do you think of the card? How do we do? No, what do you think of the matches? How do we do? It's all about how we did.
Right.
Yeah, how did we do? Listen, I'm proud of you a lot. You know that. And I told somebody earlier, and I don't want to start crying here. I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I cried all yesterday. It's okay.
I felt your dad last night.
You want to know? You want to know where I felt him more was not in the match. It's when I put the headset on at Gorilla. That's where I felt him more than ever, and I actually think that would have been the thing that excited him the most, to see me with a pencil writing times and giving orders, even though they were tired of hearing orders at that point. So that was the thing I thought if he had been here, he would have thought this was really cool.
Yeah. He was the best producer I ever had because he laid out. He knew, he had me prepped before we ever stepped out there. And he was just, because I could read that handwriting, and I could interpret what he wanted. That's what you do when you collaborate, a collaborative effort, a creative process. You have to be in an environment where everybody can share and can contribute. But you've got to have that one final, yes, no, we're doing it this way. And that was Dusty. And he didn't do it in an abrasive way. You know, sometimes because he was a little bit of an outlaw, he kind of let things slide a little bit because he understood that you can't stifle the horses. So you just got to let those son of bitches run. So I felt him so strong there last night. And then I saw your mom today, and I felt it all over again. So that's what I preach about emotional investments. That's why I'll always say, I hope that all these cats like him can experience what I have, where you have made that total emotional investment into the business that you love and will love till I die, and you think that you can give a little something back. And that's how I look at this. All In is giving something back.
Folks, there's an old saying in our sport, to leave them wanting more. We have to wrap this up right now. How about a round of applause for Cody Rhodes, Jim Ross, Jan Ross, Dusty Rhodes, and Pro Wrestling. Folks, JR's going to be signing. There's cigars outside. Cody's signing. On behalf of everyone at the Fight Network, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Get home safely, everybody. Good night.
Wow, what a moment that was. What an awesome show there with Ringside with Jim Ross. And, of course, the American Nightmare, Cody, our brand new NWA World Heavyweight Champion. We are at StarCast, and we are not done yet. Still got some more stuff to go here at the Edward Jones stage. We are going to have the Lapsed Band. If you've never heard these guys before, they are an absolute riot. On the other stage, it is going to be Robbie E. Why it ended with Robbie E, guys. So a few more things going on here with Day 4. And, of course, guys, you can get everything on demand with the Fight app. Everything that happened day 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And, of course, All In. There's so much awesome wrestling content right now. It's going to blow your mind. Big things out there to Westwood One, the leading provider for wrestling podcasts like Ringside with Jim Ross, 83 weeks, and much, much more. I'm Cyrus Fees. Keep it right here. We will have the Lapsed Band coming up next.
To me, history isn't just a thought or a word or a dead idea. It's what you make it.
Wrestling MediaCon is less than a week away, and all those fans worldwide upset that they can't make it to the UK for the festivities can rest easy, as Fight will be bringing the very best of Wrestling MediaCon direct to your device wherever you are in the world. Wrestling MediaCon on Fight will feature over 7 hours of live stage shows across 2 days on the weekend of the 8th and 9th of September. Shows include the Wrestling MediaCon Hall of Fame, hosted by the prestigious one Joe Hendry and SoCal Val. The class of 2018 includes Dave Meltzer and Colt Cabana, being recognised for their achievements in wrestling media. In addition, 2 of the biggest wrestling YouTube channels face off in a live stage show as the WrestleTalk gang prepare for a showdown with Team Cultaholic. We'll also have The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana live and Inside the Ropes with Dave Meltzer and more. Fans can watch through the Fight app, live or on demand over the weekend for a price of $20 per day or only $30 for an entire weekend pass. In addition, everyone that pre-orders will receive a free digital copy of the MediaCon edition of WrestleTalk magazine, the UK's premier wrestling magazine. For further details and schedules, check out fight.tv now.